You're listening to Kempire here on the Kempire Radio Network. Welcome back to the Kempire channel, your number one source for pop culture news and music, entertainment, reality TV, and so much more. Be sure to let me know if you can hear me, see me, all the good things. We have a special evening live for you guys today, a recap of Reality Check Inside America's Next Top Model. I don't know if you guys had a chance to watch it yet. It was 3 hours of my life yesterday. Then I watched it again today so that I could do this recap with you guys. Tyra Banks sits down in the documentary, and there are mixed feelings about Tyra. There are mixed feelings on whether or not she took any accountability, if at all, throughout this documentary. But if you had to rate this documentary from 1 to 10, let me know. Let me know in the live chat. And if you're part of the replay crew, be sure to let us know as well. I have a lot of thoughts because I'm going to say this as not a disclaimer, but I guess sort of like a disclaimer. I came into this as someone that watched America's Next Top Model from the beginning, okay? And I fell off. I probably fell off when they got rid of Nigel, Miss J, and Mr. J, because I can't even remember the later years. I remember that there was one particular point that they decided to bring it back, and I think it was airing on VH1, and they decided to bring Rita Ora as the host. And I like Rita Ora, don't get me wrong, but I feel like they're always trying to prop up Rita Ora. And like when she first came out, her music career, remember that? And everyone was saying, oh, she's in a throuple with Beyonce and Jay-Z. Remember those rumors? Those are rumors. I'm not saying that it was true. Okay, only for us to fast forward, and then there was those pictures with her and Tessa Thompson and her current husband. Wait a minute. Wait. Look. God. No.
Who said that?
This is digressed really quickly. So let me focus. So I don't remember those years. I didn't watch those years of America's Next Top Model, the Rita Ora years. And how many years were those? How many cycles were those? What, 2? Right? Remember? Okay. DC says, yep, I remember those rumors. All right. Exactly. Jen Falala says, Rita Ora is an industry plant. I think she's very talented. There are a couple of Rita Ora songs that I like. A couple. But does a couple songs make a career? This is not about Rita Ora, Kempire. It might not be about Rita Ora, but she put the nail in the coffin that was America's Next Top Model, a global phenomenon. But the heat is on Tyra Banks. And I want to first start off by saying this. The Kempire After Dark live show is happening here in New York City on March 13th. And I'm going to have to add this to the list of things that we're going to get into, but I'm going to talk about it explicitly, okay? If you're in New York City, want to be in New York City or in the tri-state area, we have people flying in from Kenya, okay? Shout out to y'all. All right? But if you can't come to New York, there is a live stream option. You know, we've done quite a few different cities and live shows, and there has not been a live stream option. So this is your opportunity to be a part of it, no matter where you are in the world, and you'll be able to watch the show for a week later. So even if you can't make it to the show, and maybe you're like, you know what, I'll watch it the next day, or I'll watch it a couple of days later, this is your opportunity to get information on the Kempire After Dark live show. It's a night of tea being spilled, comedy, fun, all kinds of things happen at this live show. So if you haven't experienced it before, or if you have, we have people that are coming back that have been to all of the shows. All right, ticket information will be available in the description. Shay Law says, I literally cried watching the documentary. I thought I was going to be a G because I was like, I know what's happening at the end with Miss J. I already know I'm going to be fine. I was tearing up again. But yesterday, I went into the ugly cry, y'all. I had to go get a Kleenex. And do a cry angle. I don't know why I had to do a cry angle. I'm not wearing makeup. And I was just like, and I knew it because I saw the clips, the previews of people talking about Miss J revealing that he had a stroke back in 2022. And after being a walking coach, he was Tyra Banks' walking coach when she was 16 years old. That's important to note when you think about what plays out during this season, okay? That's important to note. So he reveals that he had a stroke back in 2022. Hold on, y'all. Let me plug in my fan. Getting warm in here because I'm getting heated and emotional. Look, heated and emotional. But yeah. So he reveals that he had a stroke and now he can't walk. But we will revisit that. But let's all say a prayer tonight for those that believe in prayer or believe in manifestation. Let's pray for Miss J that he's able to walk again, even just for himself. I can only imagine, like, that was his calling card. That's what he became famous for. He was already known in the model industry for doing that work, but he became a household name. For those of us that did not know who he was, America's Next Top Model, that had hundreds of millions of watchers around the world, became familiar with Miss J. And I know we call him Miss J, but the pronouns are he. Okay, we refer to him as he. Just for those that might get, he might reply to she too. I don't know. But we love you, Miss J, and we're praying for you. We're praying for you, and we look forward to the day. I'm already envisioning him walking again and us all celebrating. So remember when? Yes, Ariana says, I pray he struts again. Come on. For all of us that grew up with America's Next Top Model, we all felt like after watching that show, we could all be models. We knew a thing or two about posing. We knew a thing or two about smizing. We knew a thing or two about what it takes to be in the modeling industry. So I walked into this documentary saying to myself, I'm going to give Tyra grace because people have been dragging, the new people during the pandemic that started watching America's Next Top Model, and they didn't know about the struggles we've been through to make it in this modeling industry. That was the perspective I was coming in with because, there were a lot of things, including the Diddy of it all. There were a lot of things that Diddy did on Making the Band that back then, you're like, that's what you need to do to make it in the industry. You gotta lose sleep. You gotta not eat. You gotta do whatever you can. You gotta walk across a bridge to Brooklyn to get a cheesecake for Diddy that he's not gonna eat. We all had that mentality back in the day. And it's interesting, not to say that what happened back in the day was right, but back in the day, we didn't know any better. And I think that's okay. What did the late Dr. Maya Angelou say? When you know better, you do better. As long as you're not doing what happened in 1992 in 2026. So I think that's important to know. However, do I think a lot has changed in the modeling industry outside of this reality show space? No, I don't think a lot has changed. We just don't have a spotlight necessarily on it anymore. So I came into this documentary. For those that don't know, you can watch this documentary, Reality Check, Inside America's Next Top Model on Netflix. You're not paying me, but run me a check. That's free promo. You guys are getting free promo, okay? But anyway, we're going to have a good time. Do me a favor and like the video, because although we're doing this for free, we need you to share this, because there will be new people that have no idea that we don't just talk about housewives here. We talk about everything in pop culture over here. All right. Shout out to those of you that are watching on YouTube, but also those of you watching on Kempire on Facebook and Kempire Daily on Facebook. All right. Let me take a sip, y'all. So here's the thing. Jen Falala said, nah, Kemp, no grace for Tyra. Well, Jen Falala, this is not your review, okay? Follow me, okay? So I came into this documentary saying, you know what? I'm going to keep an open mind. But I already in my mind was like, I felt like people have been dragging Tyra for the things that no one even scoffed at back in when this show was airing. No one scoffed at it. It became a household show. It set a whole new standard for reality competition television. So nobody was saying anything back in the day. They said, give her another season. Give her a bigger budget. Okay, that's how I came into this documentary. Follow me, because I know some people are like, wait a minute, where are we going with this? This is how I came into the documentary. And I was like, and here's the other element. I said, you know what? I'm going to give Tyra some grace because so often women, Black women, are held to a different standard when all these other men that were behind the scenes really calling the shots, Les Moonves, let's talk about it. So Les Moonves was the head of CBS, the overlord of UPN. Remember UPN? And then the CW? Yeah. We're that age, okay? That's where America's Next Top Model aired. It was on UPN. Senior GC, follow me. See, like we're gonna get there, okay? Les Moonves. Remember him? He had to step down because of accusations of harassment. Les Moonves, the same man that allegedly, I have to say allegedly because our attorneys tell me we do, that basically had Janet Jackson blacklisted. So ever since the Super Bowl, we've said every Super Bowl is Janet Jackson Appreciation Day. Les Moonves was Tyra's boss. So I always felt like Tyra got the brunt of it because she was the face of the show. That's how I always felt. Like she gets the brunt of it, but y'all don't know the faces, the suits, the white men behind the scenes that get away with all of this bad behavior. Les Moonves, he didn't get any. He got a big, major $1 million payout and left CBS. Now he's at home twiddling his thumbs, I guess. I don't know. You remember after that happened, Julie Chen? She was just Julie Chen on Big Brother. Then she was on The Talk. But when her husband, here we go, how do I get here? Because I'm a pop culture king. Focus. So, Julie Chen, remember she was the moderator on The Talk. She steps down from The Talk because she didn't want to talk. Julie Chen didn't want to talk. And all of a sudden, but she said, I'm not giving up my job at Big Brother. I started Big Brother. I'm not giving up that job. All of a sudden, she wants to add Moonves as a slap to the network that just fired her husband for harassment. She said, I'm going to double down against women and victims. I'm going to add the last name Moonves, even though her entire career was Julie Chen. But okay, fine. They're still together. Happily? I don't know. Look, I don't know. Are they happily together? I don't know. Don't care. Don't know. I'm giving you the story. So Les Moonves was the head of CBS, which was the overlord, okay, the network, the parent company over UPN. So yes, Tyra was an executive producer and she was a host. But please understand, especially Tyra, who she was a new in this space of reality television, new at hosting, they viewed Tyra as a model, a supermodel. They didn't take her seriously. Do I think that executive producer role was something that had weight and power? Not really. Not really. However, that's how I came into I'm taking you on a journey. That's how I came into the documentary. Then by the episode 3, I said, oh, hell, Tyra. I said, oh, hell, Tyra. Although 2 things can be true. Those men made a lot of decisions that you had to take the brunt for, but you, until you do right by the Jays and Nigel, ain't no good gonna come to you. You know what I mean? So I have to say by episode 3, and I said, Tyra, really? The accountability is giving Karen Huger. It may be less accountability. I think she was saying everything that she felt that she needed to say in order for, at the end of episode 3, to let us know that cycle 25 is returning. Excuse me? This is something that we've talked about before. And it's very similar to what Michael Jackson went through. When he had the hit album, Follow Me, I'm going to get you there. When Michael Jackson had the hit album, Thriller, or when Lauryn Hill had the hit album, Miseducation, as creatives, and this is not just in music, after you have a huge hit, like America's Next Top Model, that changed the face of modeling, that changed the face of reality competition, you try to keep that sucker alive. You try to re-energize, have that same success over again. She talks about that even in this. She talks about that in the documentary. They told me you're never going to be able to recreate this success. And she did for multiple seasons of America's Next Top Model, but I still feel like she's chasing that to this day. We do not need a cycle 25 Tyra, especially if that cycle does not include Miss J, Mr. J, and Nigel Barker. We do not need it. And honestly, I don't see them ever working with you again. And when you say, and I think it was in episode 3, that to this day she thinks that they think that she has something to do with it. Well, let's revisit cycle 8 when Jay Manuel says to you in an email, why wouldn't you just pick up your phone? Did we not have phones? Wait, no, did we not have phones? Did we not have text messaging? But anyway, so Jay Manuel in cycle 8 sends you a message to let you know that, things have changed. This is not working for me. He doesn't hear from you for 3 days. 3 days. And then when you finally respond, you say, I am disappointed. There's something with Tyra. There is something with Tyra, because I really came in trying to give Tyra grace with this. And then as I heard more and more stories, and when they re-showed some moments after terrible things happened on the show, and I'm thinking to myself, Tyra. Oh, not me froze. Oh, I guess The Wire won, y'all. It must be The Wire. It's all right. Hold on. Oh, no, it's not The Wire, y'all. Y'all can hear me. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Let me fix it. It's not it's. Ooh. Here we go. Ooh. Hold on. All right. All right. All right. Hold on, y'all. It wasn't The Wire this time. It was something else. Let me go to... hold on. This is what happens when you're trying to do a live show in the evening. Yeah, Tyra coming for your internet. But at least you guys can hear me. That's all that matters. But let me fix this, y'all. Hold on. I don't know why it did that. Oh, hold on. Let's see. Oh, Lord. All right, hold on, y'all, while I try to fix this, because I don't know why it did that. I don't know why it did that. As I was trying to... Oh, there it goes. There it goes. Lord have mercy. The mechanisms. Look. Anyway, so back to this. Let's focus. Let's focus. All right. Savannah says, I was rooting for you. I know, me too. I was rooting for it too. I was like, why is it going? But it wasn't The Wire this time, y'all. It was the controller here. So something froze on that. Look, Mercury retrograde is retrograding, but it's okay. You guys can hear me. You can see me. All right. All right. So back to this. So for those that are just joining us, we're talking about the Netflix documentary, Reality Check Inside America's Next Top Model. All right. All right. So I did take notes. I took a lot of notes, and I've already jumped around a lot. Okay. But like I said, I came into the documentary hoping to... Oh, not me pressing buttons. I came into the documentary hoping to gain a different perspective or confirm what I thought about Tyra. But by episode 3, I said, Lord, I'm like, something's not right with Tyra. You know what I mean? And I think some of it was her trying to be successful in being successful with that. She would do anything for that success. So fast forwarding, let me go back to what I was saying about Jay Manuel. So Jay Manuel talks about sending that email to Tyra, her replying 3 days later saying that I am disappointed. And then when they start filming again, she is completely cold to him, and their relationship is never the same. If you start in episode 1, the episode 1's called On Top. Jay, Miss J, Nigel Barker, they all were part of the beginning. But the Jays, they were at the very, very beginning. They were friends of Tyra. Miss J helped Tyra learn how to walk when she was 16 years old, okay, as a model. Jay Manuel was her makeup artist. She spent time at his home in the very beginning stages when the show was first launched. So that's important to note the history behind their relationship. So at this particular point, I'm like, at episode 3, I'm like, wow. And again, when she's asked about Jay Manuel and her relationship with Jay Manuel, she refuses to talk about it. So that, for me, confirmed what Jay said about her. Why would you refuse? You're in a documentary talking about the beginning. Like, at this particular point, there's nothing that should be off the table, right? There should be nothing off the table. Why can't you have a conversation about Jay Manuel? And Jay doesn't come across unlikable in this documentary. Jay doesn't come across like he's lying. I will say this. There was a little bit of a lack of accountability from the other judges. And I did see that Janice Dickinson was talking about this documentary and talking about how, I can't remember the exact words, so I'm paraphrasing, but she was talking about how toxic that environment was. However, girl, you're not seen in the best of light, because I almost forgot I didn't forget. But when they replayed some of Janice Dickinson's really terrible moments, they were pretty bad. Because if this is what she was saying on camera, can you imagine what was edited out? All right, so as I said to you before, I took a couple of notes. So I want to kind of go through my notes. I will drop the call link for those that want to call in and share their thoughts and perspectives on the Netflix documentary about America's Next Top Model. I do hear that the E! Network is working on theirs as well. Who did you wish was a part of this documentary? Everyone watched this documentary because they saw that Tyra was going to be a part of it. Everyone was watching it. I think we still would have watched it without Tyra, because I don't feel like that we got any clarity from Tyra. If anything, it made Tyra probably look worse. If Tyra didn't do this documentary, I probably would still be like, you know what? Everyone wants to come for Tyra, and there are other people to blame. And I still think that there are other people to blame along with her. Kevin Mock, he didn't seem bothered at all with any of the stuff. He had like only one regret, and that was the violent shoot that they did. Ken Mock was just like, he just talked so nonchalantly, okay? Talked so nonchalantly about everything. Eva the Diva, Yaya, some of you are saying that these are the people that you wanted to see. Tiffany, well, Tiffany is speaking out. Let's get into that, because I don't want to forget anything that I want to talk about that happened offline. Tiffany. So you remember the iconic moment between Tiffany and Tyra. Well, even the Tiffany of it all, after watching the documentary, because I still felt like, you know what, Tyra was really rooting for her. She really felt a connection to Tiffany. Maybe she felt too invested in Tiffany. But after watching the documentary and learning that the scene that we saw was a lot worse, that there were lawyers on set the next time that they started shooting after this, because Tyra had lost it. We didn't even see half. We didn't see half of what Tyra said to Tiffany. Well, Tiffany is speaking out, y'all. So Tiffany said this on social media. Hold up, at Tyra Banks. Let's keep it cute. You are the one lying ass, tired ass B-word. You know how you treated me the whole time off and on camera. You was a bully. You treated me like ish and said the nastiest things about me and my son. That is not how the argument went, but y'all edited to make it look like you cared. Also, F the Shade Room. Why the Shade Room? Why they catching strays? F your weird ass fans, and F you, Tyra Banks. I bet you won't sit down with me face to face and talk about it. Also, F my family too. What? Y'all don't want ever to defend me. I got more money in helping more people than all or many of the top models, but that's the update y'all give. Damn shame. It's giving y'all still hating on little black ass me, Tyra Banks ho. What? Damn. Just let it go. It's been over 20 years. F. Oh. But Everyone that was in the documentary said that that scene between Tiffany and Tyra was a lot worse than what we saw. Jean, I felt the same way. Jean says, unfortunately, I think Tyra is devoid of feeling empathy. That's what I got from watching this documentary. It was almost crazy to see. I was like, wait, based off her interactions, especially with the people that she considered close to her, that she considered family, I said, wait a minute. Are you, like, do you actually have any feeling? Jean says, unfortunately, I think Tyra is devoid of feeling empathy. She will continue to believe everyone else was or is the problem. At one particular point, she blamed the audience during the documentary. You guys wanted more. You wanted bigger. You wanted better. You wanted this. You wanted that. And I'm not saying that that's not true. We see this all the time. We talk about reality television all the time. I'm waiting on the Real Housewives expose. Are we going to have to wait another 10 years before that? And then all of a sudden, because you see the Bravo universe still makes excuses. Even with the reality TV reckoning, the Bravo fans still make excuses for some of the things that we've seen over the last 20 years. So are we going to have to wait another 20 years before we see the documentary about Real Housewives and how it affects people's lives? I'm just asking. I'm just saying. But one of the things that I loved about this documentary, it really changes how you view reality television, specifically competition reality television. Because a lot of times people are just watching this thinking that this is the way it happens. And this is why I've always said to you guys when we talk about any of the reality TV shows that we're talking about, that you're watching an edited version. And that edited version can really skew how you look at someone or the situation that you're viewing. So I'm wondering if we ever saw the real situation that happened between Tiffany and Tyra, would we feel the same? Would we feel the same? No, we wouldn't feel the same, I don't think. Because based on what they said, it was pretty damn bad. Kristen says, no, those last few seasons were trash. All those gimmicks, we hated them. The audience wasn't pleased. I think I had stopped watching at that particular point. I had stopped watching because I don't even remember some of those last couple of seasons. Okay? All right, moving on. Let me go from, I took a lot of notes in regards to each episode for this documentary. And if you haven't already, guys, be sure to like the video. It's easy, free way of supporting not just my channel, but others' channels as well. You can also hear this on the Kempire podcast as well. We're talking about this documentary that came out yesterday. So I'm actually surprised. Look at me watching it twice and taking notes. And here we are reviewing it. So good to us, good for us, right? All right, before we get into the episode, let me just say thank you. We did have a few super chats. Thank you guys so much for the super chats, the Venmos, the Cash Apps. We appreciate the support. That allows us to do content that doesn't necessarily fit in with everything else that we talk about. So thank you. Squirtle, thank you for the super chat. Squirtle says, I binged the doc episodes just for this. Thank you, Squirtle. Thank you for that. And I apologize without giving you guys more notice. I was just going to say this. Squirtle says, and Tyra always harps that Naomi Campbell is a villain in the modeling industry. It kind of makes you think, like, did the situation with Naomi do this to Tyra and make Tyra the way that she is? But you would think after you brought Naomi on your talk show that you were more self-aware about what you experienced in the model industry, only for people to accuse you of being a bully too. I will say this, and I do believe that she wanted to change the scope of what the modeling industry was and the standards of the modeling industry. I do believe that she came into that with that as her intention. However, I do believe when producing a reality show, there were elements that just wouldn't work, especially if you're producing a reality show and you're trying to put these women into the modeling industry. It's not going to necessarily work. But I will say this. I do believe that some of what happened in those early seasons made a space for some of the models that we see today. I'm not going to deny that. I do believe that because of some of the things that happened, because if you talk to people like Nene, the Nenes of it all, the Tiffany Pollards of it all, they weren't taken seriously to do other things other than reality television. That is something that Nene has talked about countless times, that people would not take her serious as an actress because she was a reality TV star during that time. I know some of you, especially those of you that are going on your social media and your TikToks, that was the interesting element that they kept on showing, the different people talking about America's Next Top Model in 2025 and 2020 and things like that. How like, oh my gosh, she was terrible. But back when this was airing, no one said a thing. No one made a big deal about it. They gave them a bigger budget. They gave them another season. They told them to make it bigger, better, and uglier.
Did you know data brokers are making billions selling your personal information, usually without your consent? That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based support. Other companies might just sell credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/hidden. Protect yourself now at aura.com/hidden.
I'm not saying that it was right. Yes, in 2026, we're looking at it and we're like, you know what? That was wrong. That was really wrong. But let's not sit here and pretend that it wasn't okay back in the day when this was airing. Ambeezy, thank you so much for the super chat. Ambeezy says, bind the spirit of Tyra over the connection. I mean, honestly, I don't even know. That happens every once in a while with it's a Stream Deck. That happens every once in a while with that. I was doing good because I did change the wire. For those that have been here and like, oh, it was the wire. I thought it was the wire too. And I was like, oh, wait, maybe. I went down and I looked and I was like, oh, it's not the wire because I did what I usually do and it didn't fix it. It had to go here. Luckily, I know what I'm doing. Luckily, I'm a good tech person. Thank you, NBZ. Yes. Squirtle, thank you for another super chat. Squirtle says, if you ever watched the Oliver Twist interviews, Tiffany says that Tyra really went in on her family, her kids, and her grandmother. It was really nasty. I believe it because they said more was said, but I guess they just decided not to reveal what was said because it would really harm Tyra's image. Tyrese, thank you so much for the super chat. Tyrese says Tyra really trolled us in the trench coat. Not trolled us in the trench coat. Where's my picture of Tyra? Hold on, let me bring this up. Trolled us in the trench coat. She looks good though. I'm not gonna deny that Tyra doesn't look good. She looks good, but she showed. You want to talk about accountability? I don't feel like there was any accountability there. Exactly. Sailor Moonlight says we were all rooting for The Wire. It wasn't The Wire this time though. It wasn't The Wire. It was the Stream Deck freezing. So there we are. All right, moving on from there. Let me just read some of my notes to remind me of what happened in episode 1. So we talk about the beginning of America's Next Top Model, how this came to be. Tyra was coming from the modeling world. She did a little acting. She already had a name for herself at this point, okay? So Tyra, I have to give it to her. She hustled. Nothing was given to her when it comes to getting this reality TV show made. You got to respect it. She was out there hustling. They brought it to every network. Every network said no. But this UPN network was like, well, let's see. So she did this theatrical performance of what to expect from this show. And UPN was like, well, maybe. Okay. But even before that, she had to convince Ken Mock, who had produced. I didn't even realize that this was the same producer behind Making the Band. So they together went to the different networks and all the networks said no. Ken was the one to bring the show together. He's the one, because he's filmed reality television, he was able to bring it together. He was able to say like, well, no, you need competitions. You need, if you want to see their lifestyle, we need an apartment for all of them to live together. He said, oh, and we need judges. And that's how Tyra brought in Miss J, Mr. J. Nigel Barker eventually came because they were like, we need a white straight man. That came from the networks. But it ended up being magic. So Miss J was the first person that Tyra called when developing the show. Then she talked about working with Jay Manuel. She said she does compliment him in the documentary. She's like, he's the most talented creative director that she's ever worked with. So every major network, as I mentioned to you, said no. And Tyra says it was because models were seen as unsympathetic characters. She said they were viewed as, just very, I forgot the word that she used, but she said that was the reason why that a lot of the networks were not interested in it. Okay. Then they talk about developing the show with the UPN, and Les Moonves was the head of the parent company that was over UPN. And I think that's important to note when you think about his history. And mind you, this is years ago. Les Moonves, let me Google schmoogle it so I can remind you when, because it wasn't until recently that he was forced out. When did he leave CBS? Let me see. Because he was over there wielding his power to the point where allegedly Jan Jackson was blacklisted. You remember, you couldn't see her on MTV. There was a lot of stuff. So he left 8 years ago. 8 years ago. And that was like during the Me Too movement. Les Moonves departed CBS chairman and CEO on September 9th of 2018 following multiple allegations of sexual misconduct, including SA and harassment reported in the New Yorker. The board determined that he was fired for cause, denying him a $120 million severance package. However, I feel like he ended up getting something. Hold on. So they said the allegations, numerous women accused Moonves of sexual harassment, unwanted touching, forcing sexual acts, which he denied or claimed were consensual. Was that when you were still married to Miss Chen, Moonves? For cause determination, the board determined that Moonves breached its contract, showed willful and material misfeasance, and failed to cooperate with the investigation. The financial penalty, Moonves did not receive his $120 million severance, and he agreed to donate $20 million to the Me Too related organizations. The departure ended his 23-year tenure at CBS and allowed for a merger with Viacom. That's what Google Schmoogle is telling us right now. And the New Yorker's original article, they talk about he negotiates his exit from CBS. 6 women raised new assault and harassment claims. That's just important to remember, okay? That's just important to remember. Glam Deb says, Tyra, in my opinion, was not transparent. She wasn't. Because if you're doing a documentary about America's Next Top Model and they're asking you about Miss J, I'm not Miss J, Jay Manuel, and you can't respond to that? You have not seen Miss J since Miss J had a stroke? That was in 2022. 2022, she did reach out to him, but you have not seen him since 2022 and he had the stroke? Okay. And she refuses, as I said to you before, to talk about what happened between her and Jay Manuel. That for me was like ding, 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 ding. I was like, wait a minute. Okay. All right. Well, guess who says she brought Naomi to her talk show to embarrass her, but it didn't work. Based on what we saw with Shandy, because you remember what happened with Shandy, because we're going to talk about that too, who was a contestant on America's Next Top Model when they went to Milan. Based on her bringing Shandy on her daytime talk show at the time, and Shandy said she did not want to see any of the footage, and you still show the footage while on national television. Now I honestly believe you brought Naomi on there to embarrass her, and that didn't. These Epstein files are going to do it, though. Naomi, you ain't innocent either, Naomi. Naomi is not innocent either. Mr. Mellon Magic says, is Tyra cool with Nigel? I have no idea. I don't think she's cool with any of them. But Nigel, Miss J, Mr. J, they all were cool. You see them. They have a moment during the documentary where it's all of them together. All of them together. I loved seeing this moment with Nigel J and Miss J. So they're still cool. And after Miss J had the stroke and he was able to see people again and he was in the hospital, they went to go see him. All right. So let me just kind of go through the timeline. And then again, I will drop the calling for those that want to call in and share their thoughts and perspectives on the Netflix documentary Reality Check Inside America's Next Top Model. This is our review and conversation about it as well. All right. Right, Ariana, I was wondering that too. Ariana says Shandy was SA'd. Why did no one say that out loud? I'm thinking maybe for the legal ramifications, because that's how it felt. And I'm thinking in 2026, because Shandy was saying like, well, why didn't anyone stop it? They just allowed it to continue to happen. We're going to talk about that. Okay. So Tyra in episode 1 talks about how people did not view models as sympathetic characters. And that's why a lot of people were not taking her reality show seriously. But they ended up landing at the UPN. All right. Tyra and Les Moonves apparently got into a heated conversation over the phone about a Hispanic woman that they wanted to have on the show. And this is another thing that was important to note in regards to how much power did Tyra really have over the show, besides being the face and having the title executive producer. How much power did she have? So apparently they did not want this particular Hispanic person on there. Not me freezing again. OMG. All right. I'm going to, while I fix this, y'all, I'm going to keep talking. Okay. But anyway, so this must be something with this. So anyway, as I do this, the situation with, hold on, y'all. I'm trying to fix this. Okay. So back to what I was saying in regards to this. The situation between Tyra and Les Moonves got really heated to the point where they said it almost got physical. I don't know if I believe that. I think they were being a little dramatic with that. I don't think that it ever got physical, or that it potentially could have gotten physical. But Les Moonves, based on what people have said about him, that would not shock me. That would not shock me that maybe possibly that he was hard to manage, hard to work with, even though that was the situation that they were trying to paint about Tyra. That's one of the things that they were definitely trying to paint about Tyra during the documentary. Okay. So anyway, moving on from there. So Ebony, you remember Ebony? She was the cycle one. She was in, she had like the short hair. She talks about her experiences and everything like that in regards to being a Black woman in this space and them, having those white hairstylists not know what they're doing with her hair, laughing at her hair, giving her 3 bald spots. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This cannot be real. And then she really expected Tyra to have her back, and Tyra really did not have her back. Tyra ended up talking about her skin. And honestly, watching some of these clips back, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember how they talked about her skin and her skin being rough, but no one said anything back in the day. De La Shea says, OMG, and the way that they outed Ebony on national television. She talks about that too. She they brought it up, but she didn't realize that the ramifications of what that could be, and they never asked her about that either. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that, Ebony. But this is why, and again, this goes back to what I was saying in regards to who do you think should have also been included in this documentary. I feel like having someone like Eva the Diva made a lot of sense. Hasn't Winnie Harlow talked about her experience on this documentary, and not documentary, on America's Next Top Model, and not being very happy about her experience on America's Next Top Model? So I already expected that she wouldn't be a part of it. But it is what it is. But I really was like, oh, like an Eva the Diva would make sense in regards to being a part of this documentary. But I think the people that they did include made sense. It did make sense. And for me, it just kind of let me have an understanding. I could definitely see a part 2, but apparently they're working on something for E for a documentary. It would be interesting to see who they include for that. But we'll wait and see. Exactly. Patricia says Ebony's skin was flawless. And that's the thing. When you look back at some of the stuff and you're like, what were they talking about? Were they just saying that to say that? Or was that notes coming from somewhere else? You know what I mean? Was that something that Les Moonves or the higher ups were saying? But we have on camera Tyra saying it. You know? It's really interesting. She looks amazing. I love what she's doing now. She says she's an actress, and she looks like she stepped out of from Cycle 1 to today. So look, so she talks about her experience being outed on this show, and well, not necessarily. I don't know if I want to say it's outed, but them talking about her sexuality. But she was happy about having her girlfriend on the show as well. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Miss Parker says they almost froze Carrie D and Amanda in the pool. There was just so many moments. But like I said, there are a few reality shows that you can see documentaries from today, and you're like, why did they do that? Even the Real Housewives. As I was watching this, I'm like, okay, when is the Real Housewives documentary going to happen? Miss Parker, thank you so much for the super chat. Miss Parker says also during the show's conception, social media was non-existent. That's a good point. It took a few years for social media to gain traction. That's a very, very good point. Hence why, but I still feel like even if there was social media, I think the perspectives would be different, but I don't think that it would be dramatically different. Anyone else? I don't think so. I think we've learned a lot, especially because of the world gaining access to this information and us all, we're like, you know what? That's not cool. I'm like, that shouldn't be okay. And these higher ups, like a Les Moonves, when you think about Les Moonves and what he's been accused of by multiple accusers, and that's the guy that's over a show like this, that's important to think about. What they were okaying. And when you think about the Epstein of it all and all the people that are implicated in the Epstein files, this is all was happening not too long ago. We're talking about Les Moonves losing his job in 2018. When did Epstein unalive himself? That wasn't that long ago. All right, let's move on because I'm not even past episode 2 yet. But I'm almost there. Guys, just joining us, we're talking about the Netflix documentary, Reality Check Inside America's Next Top Model. If you're part of the replay crew, bear with us with the technology. It's okay. We're talking about this documentary and the effects that America's Next Top Model had on some of the contestants. But it's also an introspection for us that you watched it back in the day. And if you've done a watch today, it makes me wonder how I would feel watching it today. But just watching the clips, I was like, especially with some of the things that Tyra says in the in not just in the documentary, but in those episodes that they showed. Nikki says America's Next Top Model was still in the era of heroin chic in regards to that look, that gaunt look. People were obsessed with thinness then and still are. Well, now with the whole Ozempic of it all, and there's always been sort of like this obsession with weight and how, and we've said this before. I feel like the one thing that people are okay with making fun of is when someone is fat. The fat shaming doesn't feel like people don't realize like that's wrong. I think more and more we've gotten to that place, but back in the day, oh no, you saw it from the clips from the documentary. The clips from the documentary, the way they talked about everyone's bodies, and we're looking at Keena, and like Keena is so skinny, and they're like, Keena, you got a belly, you're gaining weight, and then the way it's edited, making it seem like Keena's eating all the time. So she talked about that in, I think it was in episode 2. But before we even get there, as I was talking to you before about Ebony and Ebony's makeover and how they gave her 3 bald spots, and she talked about how they were talking about her skin, and she's thinking Tyra's calling her to tell her, like, girl, we're gonna help you fix your hair. That was just a a trick. We're testing you. No, Tyra's like, well, the judges are telling me that you're showing up to the shoots ashy. And she's like, ashy? So she starts this whole routine of oils and stuff, and then the girls in the house are complaining about the oil getting everywhere, and they're commenting on it. So that was in episode 1. Then they talk about Tyra and Janice and Tyra and their back and forth, because Janice was very harsh. I know Janice wants to paint a different picture, but Janice, we remember you. Like, I don't have to rewatch to remember that Janice was terrible on the show. She said some of the nastiest things to the girls that were on this show. So Janice, there was a moment between Janice and Tyra, that there were moments between Janice and Tyra throughout the show. And Jay Manuel said that he felt like sometimes that Janice was baiting Tyra with some of her comments. So at one particular point, because he felt such a loyalty to Tyra, he felt like they were besties. She was coming over his house and he was going over her house. And you end up seeing this moment between Jay Manuel and Janice where they're like going at each other back and forth. Okay? And he said it wasn't his brightest moment on the show. All right. So then we have Nigel Barker join the crew of judges, because the network says we need a straight white photographer, male photographer. Okay? And Jay Manuel looks back on it and just like, okay, so I guess because you got Miss J and Mr. J and we're gay and we're people of color, and now you want to bring in a white person. Just imagine what that, even subconsciously, what that's saying. And that's the thing too. They were saying that the networks, they didn't mince words back in the day. They were, and who knows what they say now behind the scenes. They said to them, we need a straight white man photographer to add to the panel. So, moving on from there, we get into episode 2. Because at the end of episode 1, we are introduced to Shandy, and we get to see Shandy in the documentary. And I remember Shandy so well. And when they revisit Shandy's story, I'm like, oh my gosh, I completely forgot about this. But it was so scandalous when they went to Milan. Remember, they went on the go-sees. They had the moped drivers. The guys ended up coming back over that night, and they all were drinking. Shandy said that she had like 2 bottles of wine. You end up seeing Shandy in the hot tub with the other guys, and the girls were in there. But apparently Shandy ended up going in the shower with one of the guys, and then ended up hooking up with the guy. But she said she was blackout drunk. And she says that they filmed all of it. They filmed her hooking. So they have, this is gross to me, they had footage of her in the shower with this man, footage of her in the bed with this man. She woke up the next day just devastated. Because remember, Shandy had a boyfriend at the time, Eric. He was the one who encouraged her to go on this show. I almost completely forgot about this story until I watched this. I was like, oh my gosh, I remember this. I remember her being so devastated. And I remember when she ended up calling Eric, and Eric lost it on her, which I can't blame him. The girlfriend's calling you, telling you that she had sex with some other guy during this competition. I mean, that's the last thing he probably thought would happen. Okay? But the crazy part is Shandy's just like, and they filmed it all. No one stepped in. No one said anything. But you have to remember, these are young women. These aren't like 30-something-year-old women. These are young women. I don't remember how old Shandy was, but she was in her early 20s. Okay? And she said they documented it all. And apparently the rule was if you go into a bathroom by yourself, cameras won't go in there with you. But if you're in there with someone else, then they're filming it. And because it became a story point, they had to follow it through. Hence why they ended up filming her talk to her boyfriend because she was like, I'm quitting. I'm not doing this. And they wouldn't give her a phone. And then the ministry, she's like, I'm done. I'm not doing. They try to convince her. She's like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. Because she was devastated. She ends up calling Eric. Eric loses his mind on her. I can't blame him. And they filmed all of it. And she falls apart. She claims that at the ending of the filming of that, the sound guy and the camera guys are like, she was 18 or 19? See, I don't remember. I just know that they were really, really young because she left her home. Because if you know Shandy's story, she left her home as soon as she was able to. So yeah, she probably was like 19. She was probably 19. She left her home as soon as she could because she didn't feel connected to her family. Tyree says Shandy was 21. Yeah, young. Regardless, young. She was super young. Okay. So all that plays out in episode 2. And Tyra is asked about it. Did you guys pay attention to Tyra's body language when she was asked about it? She was asked about it in episode 1, and then they lead into it in episode 2. And she seemed like, did you not know that they were going to ask you about these moments that happened during the season? Her reaction was so strange to me. You know what I mean? So strange to me. I was just like, wait a minute. This again leads me to the weirdness of Tyra in this documentary, the complete lack of emotion and empathy that I sensed. I can't say that she didn't have it. I just couldn't sense any sort of empathy coming from her when it comes to the Shandy of it all, especially when the next day Tyra comes there. And she says she doesn't want to talk about production because she had no involvement in how the show was produced, like when they were in the field kind of thing. So exactly, Lais says her body language was weird, especially talking about the Shandy stuff. But then the next day, you go there and you start talking about cheating. You start talking about cheating, and then it's a segue. And the thing is, when this is playing out in the documentary, I'm like, oh my God, I remember this. I remember this. Ms. Parker says Tyra appears to disassociate. Probably. Maybe. I don't know. Okay. So the next day, Tyra goes there. She starts talking about cheating. She's like stoking the flame. And Shandy's there, young girl at the time. And she's like, okay, she's talking about cheating. Oh, gosh. And then this conversation about cheating. So Tyra's like, oh, you cheated on your boyfriend. And the advice that she gave her, I was just sort of like, okay. It didn't seem sympathetic at the time either. It didn't. It now makes me wonder what people really thought of Tyra behind the scenes as the model, like other models and things like that, because she had a lot to say about Naomi over the years. And I believe everything she said about Naomi. But did you become one of those people to these girls on the show? Because I really always looked at America's Next Top Model back in the day as Tyra was really trying to change the face of the modeling industry. Unfortunately, she really couldn't with this show. She couldn't. Because, I mean, in the early years, a lot of those models did not end up becoming major models, because it wasn't realistic for the modeling industry at the time. Do I think that those models set a new standard and opened the door for other models that we saw come later? Yeah. But somewhere along the line, maybe in creating television and the powers that be kind of were like, well, Tyra, if you really want this to be successful, we also have to keep in mind, Tyra's also getting a big paycheck. After season 1, now the budget's bigger. Her paycheck is bigger. She's not just the executive producer, she's the host. So, and here's the other element too. Now she's everywhere. She's back on top. Yes, she was a supermodel, but there was a point too in her career where she was just like, okay, I'm gaining weight. People are always talking about my body, blah, blah, blah. She ends up doing Victoria's Secret. That was a great moment for her, but she wants to do more. Now she has a hit, and she's willing to do anything to keep this money train going. It's important to think about those elements. She's making millions of dollars. She's probably still making tons of money off of this show. She's the face. She's getting more opportunities. People are wanting her, come on my show, do this, do. And while these other models that are on the show are just on the show for the season, and once they're off the season, no one cares. No one cares. But Tyra continues to she's booking more opportunities for herself. More things are probably being thrown in her lap. Well, you have this successful show. What about a book? What about a movie? What about a cosmetic line? What about this? I'm sure she had so many opportunities that came her way because of how successful that show was. But that was off the back of these women that came on the show and ended up having nothing after it. Okay? All right. So they talk about Shandy in that episode. Kevin Mock says the production covers everything and he treats it like it's a documentary. So that's why they felt they had to follow the story with Shandy and what happened with her. Okay? The essay that happened with her. They didn't refer to it as that, but that's the feeling I got watching. I was just like, and they never said that. They never said, and I guess for legal reasons, they're not going to, because then what happens? You know what I mean? Okay. So moving on from there, they film Shandy's combo with Eric. He loses it on her. I can't blame him. So after the season 2, America's Next Top Model becomes even bigger success. Hundreds of millions of followers around the world. Now they're doing different country versions of America's Next Top Model. We're in Germany. We're in Africa. And I'm assuming, as an executive producer, Tyra's getting a residual off of that. Sometimes. That's not always true. But I wouldn't be surprised if she was getting a residual off of that. Okay? Tyra says that the viewers wanted more from them. So this is where she starts putting the accountability on the viewers. And I'm not surprised, yes. Because we see what happens with the Bravo world. The viewers are like, we want this person. We want more of this. So they start feeling the pressure. I've heard housewives talk about this is why they end up buying a new house or wearing certain designer. They feel the pressure from the audience. Okay? So she said that's why the challenges got crazier and crazier. Okay? Danielle, who had the gap, where they made her close her gap. At first, she was like, I'm not closing my gap. I want to keep my gap. I almost forgot about this. Joni was at the dentist's office for hours into the night. They removed all her teeth. At one particular point, she smiles at the camera. They saw down her teeth. She says they didn't fix anything. They just made the teeth pretty. She says she still has orthodontist issues. I'm like, damn. Okay. Tyra apparently told Danny, we see it in that moment. I literally, as I'm watching this documentary, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this moment. She was like, you got to get rid of the gap. You can't be a cover girl and have a gap. Mind you, there had been models with gaps. Were they huge models? Yeah, one or two. But she's like, you can't have a gap. Mind you, Danny, beautiful. Gap, no gap, whatever. Beautiful. Still beautiful. Danny, some of these models that were featured in the documentary, I'm like, oh my God, they literally could be a model today. Gorgeous. So Danny talks about that experience. Joni talks about her experience of being in the dentist's office for that many hours. Mind you, she's modeling the next day. She's doing a shoot and she's like tearing. And she's like, these tears were real because she was in pain from all that dental work. But remember, up until this particular point, they were just doing, when they used to do the makeovers for the girls, when they would come in, they were like, okay, we're going to change your hair. We're doing this. Now they're doing teeth. Now it's got to get bigger. It's got to be more dramatic. It makes me wonder who said, let's do that. Yes, you see Tyra's the one that's saying you need to close your gap, but who were the powers that be that told her to do that? Hey, Danielle. Danielle says, OMG, Joni was so sad. And I love Danny and her story and her gap. And now I guess she may have gotten it returned. She may have gotten it, probably like bonding. Because I used to have a gap too, but I had like a really small gap. But I got that sucker closed. But that was my choice, my body. Okay? I didn't do it for anybody but for myself. Okay? So anyway. So, the next, and then so crazy because the next season, they ended up telling a model to widen her gap so that she could look like Lauren Hutton. Excuse me? This was the next season. The previous season, you're telling Danny to close her gap. The next season, you're telling this white model to widen her gap. Like, really? No, and not even widen her gap, to give her a gap. I personally would have done that. I'm like, excuse me? No. It's one thing if you're going to bring them together. You're not going to take them apart. But that's me. Okay? So they talk about that. Tyra claims that the agents would tell her this. So this is Tyra not taking accountability either. She, again, and she could be right, because I tell you, I don't think it was just Tyra. There were some faceless people that were behind the scenes. I also don't feel like some of the other judges that were in the documentary took any accountability, really, for the most part. So Tyra says that there were agents that were, telling her, like, people like Danny are not going to be able to get booked with that gap and things like that. Okay, so Dion talks about how they exploited her mom. So you also see Dion in this documentary because remember her mom had been in a violent, pow 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 situation, and then all of a sudden they do this violent shoot. And she feels like, 2020 vision, she feels like they did that in order to trigger her to have a reality TV moment. That's happening today. While reality shows are being filmed while we are here, there are still things that producers are doing to trigger you. I was just watching something the other day. I can't remember what I was watching, but it was related to Real Housewives. And they were talking about, when they do their confessionals, they're not showing footage. In the documentary, you see them show footage, but for Real Housewives, when the producer's talking to you, they're reiterating what happened in a scene, and they are probably putting a little bit more stank on it. They are deciding what voice or narrative to give to that moment as they're reiterating this to the person in the confessional. So they could be as shady as they want, which will trigger the person to be like, well, you know what? What did they say about me? That was something that they mentioned in after cycle 1 of America's Next Top Model. After they started seeing it on television, the way that they were sort of pinning the girls against each other, talking about, oh, this one said this about you in the documentary, blah, blah, blah.
Hey, want a cookie? Oh, I know you just ate, so you're craving something a little sweet. Besides, one cookie isn't gonna kill you. How about half? Just a bite? Bite it. Bite it. Bite it.
Food noise isn't fair, but Mochi Health is. Your affordable GLP-1 source that puts you on a path to successful weight loss by quieting food noise.
Bite it.
Shh. Learn more at joinmochi.com. Mochi members have access to licensed physicians and nutritionists. Results may vary.
So, Monique Child says Potomac and Atlanta producers are the worst. You would think that they're the worst. They're not, y'all. I get it. Those are the shows in the cities that maybe we talk about the most and you watch. They're not the worst. They all are doing it. They're all doing it. Every single, I'm telling you, Ultimate Girls Trip, A Little Tea Spilled. Was it Shed Media producing it? I heard that they're in there. Get in there, fight. Allegedly. I'll just say allegedly. Get in there, fight. They're all doing this. They're all stoking the flames. Allegedly. Cameron says, I remember that shoot, and it was once. Wait, hold on. Cameron, hey Cameron. Cameron says, I remember that photo shoot, and it was once girl who had just found out that her friend overdosed and passed, and they had her in the photo shoot looking like a dip. Yes. Ken Mock, who was he was Tyra's partner in America's Next Top Model, who's also in the documentary. He said that was the only photo shoot that he regretted. That was the only one that you regretted, Ken Mock? He was very nonchalant. And look, this is why I say Tyra's getting the brunt of the backlash. But remember, Ken Mock came in as the guy that had the experience in producing reality television. He also was a part of this show. And no one has smoke for Ken Mock. I think we have to be fair. And he was very nonchalant during the documentary. And if anything, I saw a little bit more emotion from Tyra than I saw from Ken Mock. And I'm not saying that Tyra isn't wrong, But Ken Mock was supposed to come in and be the guy to help create the story and the reality television of it all. She was to come in and give the model perspective. So a lot of what we're probably seeing was his brainchild. But okay. Matt says, I got smoke for him too. All right, damn. Matt says, I got smoke for him too. Guys, you're just joining us. Don't forget the Kempire After Dark live show is happening here in New York City on March 13th. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, come meet me in person. There are meet and greet tickets available. I have to talk about America's Next Top Model. I mean, who knows? You just never know. All of our live shows are so different depending on what's happening. But who knows? I might have to add America's Next Top Model to some of what we talk about at the live show. But even if you can't come to the live show, there is a live stream option. So no matter where you are in the world, you will be able to watch from your couch at home. So, and be able to keep it for a week after the show. Get your tickets today. All right. Ticket information is available in the description. And as always, don't forget to like the video. I am going to drop the call link for those that want to call in and share their perspectives on the Netflix documentary Reality Check Inside America's Next Top Model. Kim, thank you guys for keep liking the video. Keep liking the video. I just saw 666 and I said, oh, not today, Jesus. Koale, thank you so much for the super chat. Koale says reality TV docs reminds me of the show Unreal. Remember that? For those of us of a particular age, we saw the birth of reality television. My first reality TV show, which was like the first reality TV show, I believe, was The Real World. Real World, New York. I was a kid, though, watching that. Jay, thank you so much for the super chat. Jay says, oh, Kempire worked at Victoria's Secrets. I got tea. What do you mean? What tea? You better call in, Jay. What secrets? I want to know about Tyra. Miss V, thank you so much for the super chat. Miss V says, the worst part, she made Danny get rid of her gap and later comes to her and says that she is a reality TV star. She wasn't going to make it. Yes, we find out, I think it was in episode 3, where Danny reveals that Tyra 15 years later says, you know what? I knew that there were certain doors that you were not going to get into because you were on reality television. And Danny was just like, F you. Well, yeah. And unfortunately, look, I think it's hard to say. It's hard to say in regards to could Tyra telling her that back then made a difference? Who knows? Who knows? But there was a point in time where being on a reality show was not acceptable. You were not going to be on the cover. Look, Kim Kardashian could tell you this too. There was a time when they would never put Kim Kardashian on the cover of Vogue. There were a lot of people in entertainment that were like, still today, I'm sure reality TV stars get that. Okay. Let me focus because I do want to kind of get through some of this. So we talked about Danny and the Gap situation. Tyra told Danny that the Gap was not marketable. Dion talks about how they exploited what she went through and she felt like they were trying to get a TV moment. And that's a lot of it. A lot of that was them trying to create storylines. I think the first season was probably the most authentic, but there was this like, okay, after seasons or cycle 2, cycle 3, now we have to create drama. People want drama, especially after the Shandy incident with the cheating. They were like, okay, we gotta create more drama. We gotta top the next thing. Okay. So Ken talks about, okay, then we talk about the different photo shoots, some of the problematic photo shoots. Here's the thing. In the documentary, they try to make it seem like after the race swapping incident, I remember watching that and not thinking anything of it that I can recall. I was like, oh, that's different. That's interesting. But I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys and be like, oh my God, I was like, that was so problematic. I'm going to be upfront with you. At that particular time, I didn't think anything of it. And I don't think the world did either. Because you know how I know that the world didn't? Because they ended up doing it again. They ended up doing it again. But they made it seem like in the documentary that there was a lot of backlash with it. But I was like, no, there wasn't. Y'all did it again. They did it again. But okay. So they talk about that. Jay Manuel says that at the time when they decided to do that photo shoot, he had asked to be excused. And they basically were like, no, you got to do it. You got to do it. And he says, if you look back at it, you could tell that he was uncomfortable. So I do feel like in some shape or form, and yes, you know, they were probably lower on when it comes to the people that had the power. They were probably lower on that. Okay. However, I do feel like they were trying to kind of rewrite history because we have them on camera saying some horrendous things to the ladies too. But, you know, here we are, okay? I'm sure they have their regrets as well. So, moving on from there. So, we're talking about the race swapping photo shoots. Tyra says that this was her way of showing that black and brown was beautiful. She says that the world thought that they were crazy after it aired. But like I said, I don't recall that happening because they ended up doing it again another season. Keena talks about how they would constantly talk about her body, her weight. Mind you, Keena says she grew up always being skinny. And she said the way they edited her on that season, it was constantly talking about her weight and her eating all the time, even though she wasn't eating that much. They also talk about in this documentary how on the show, women developed eating disorders, but people that watched the show, it's like, if she's considered skinny, then I must be fat. So people end up having eating disorders from watching America's Next Top Model. So they discussed the body shaming that they experienced on the show. Keena talks about being harassed by Brittany during her photo shoot when they were in Africa. Here's the thing. I completely 100% believe Keena. Here's the thing, though, with Kenya. Kenya recently was in the headlines. Did you guys see that story where Kenya was out and about and there was a streamer that was there? He was streaming and she ended up being on his stream. And she's like, oh, you know, I was on America's Next Top Model. And he's like, oh, cool. He interviews her. And then she's like, give me a kiss on my cheek. She says this to him. And he's like, nah. And she's just like, oh, okay. And apparently she asked him to take the footage down. And he's like, I'm not taking it down. Because I guess she felt embarrassed. But what transpired after that incident, them streaming, multiple rants from Kenya on social media. So I kind of look at Kenya, even in the interviews, it's kind of giving like she's a little off. But I'm just like, I'm not saying what happened to her in Africa did not happen. We saw it. We saw the footage. And she felt like they didn't protect her. They made excuses. Tyra, even in this documentary, it's just like, I felt like I was empowering her, saying this is how you should handle it if this happens to you. Nigel Barker was like, well, you know, yes, looking back on it now in 2026, that was wrong. But in the moment, they defended it. They were like, well, in that moment, you should, you know, you're going to meet people in the industry that are going to harass you. This is how you should handle it. Okay? So I only bring up what happened in 2025 with Kenya because I find it interesting. Like you had that experience on America's Next Top Model, and in 2025 you're asking this man to kiss you on the cheek, and he says no, and you make this big thing about it. I think it's important. I'm giving you context. This is my review. Okay, I still feel like the way that they handled her situation was wrong, but I kind of look at Kenya like, oh, okay. But that's me, okay? So she talks about that situation, and she even stops them during her confession. She's like, look at the photo that they chose. He's touching my leg. He was definitely creepy, okay? He was definitely creepy. But yeah, all right. So she talks about that. The judges made excuses for how it should have been handled. Tyra says that she was trying to empower Kenya. And he was like, you know what? I shouldn't have said that. I was wrong for that. I'm sorry, Kenya. I don't know if it didn't feel like an authentic apology to me. I think Tyra is using this documentary because she did announce that there's going to be a cycle 5 in this documentary. So I think she's using this documentary to do damage control before doing a season 25 because she's received so much backlash since the pandemic. So she's like, I need to be a part of this documentary to do damage control before we do a cycle 25. Okay? So, all right, let's move on to episode 3. Rooting for you because you know why it's called that, because they're going to talk about the Tiffany of it all. And if you missed it, we did talk about Tiffany breaking her silence on social media about the documentary. And what we find out in the documentary is that a lot more happened between Tyra and Tiffany that we didn't see. A lot. Okay? The way that Tyra spins it, even in the documentary, she's like, you know what? I saw a lot of her in myself, and they really tried with her. And I'm just telling you, up until that moment, I was on the bandwagon. I was like, yeah, I can understand why she was just disappointed. But to find out that so much more nasty things were said in that moment, yeah, I was like, Tyra. And based on what I've seen in regards to what other people are saying about Tyra in this documentary, people that had personal relationships with her, I'm like, Tyra. And after all these years, you have not made amends with Miss J, Mr. J, and Nigel Barker? Because if you had learned from the past, wouldn't you have made peace with that stuff? I don't know. I feel like you guys were so close, and I feel like they would be open to it. And we find out in episode 3 that Miss J, who was the runway queen of it all, taught everyone how to walk, including Tyra at 16, ends up having a stroke. And he says that Tyra, still to this day, has not seen him. That was in 2022, he had the stroke. But before we get to that, all right, so Tyra says she regrets what happened between her and Tiffany. She said that she felt like Tiffany could have been a supermodel, okay? She says that she went too far with Tiffany. But apparently more was said during this heated exchange between Tiffany and Tyra. You know, it's a legendary gift that we all talk about. We were rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. It became a huge moment for the show. But apparently the next day they had lawyers on set because of the things that Tyra may have said. Okay? Exactly. Carla says... Hold on. Carla says, after this doc, no one will want to watch the show revamp. Yeah, and they try to revamp it with Rita Ora. I think she should just let it go. And for those that were wondering, too, because there's a misconception that Tyra, although she's a part of the documentary, she is not producing the documentary that we watched on Netflix. Okay? All right. Jen says, let me tell you, I was looking for Tyra on the streets to whoop her ass for that Tiffany ish. Really? You mean right after it happened? Or after the doc? All right. Well, we don't condone violence over here, okay? Real Talk, thank you so much for the super chat. Real Talk says, I think the hurt came when Tyra could have helped her and she just watched Danny struggle. Yeah. Because Danny ended up winning America's Next Top Model. She talks about that in episode 3. Coming to New York, living in the model's apartment. She was living in the model's apartment with Chanel Iman, right? And she's seeing Chanel glow up into this big model. We still celebrate and see Chanel Iman as a top model. I mean, she's not really modeling as much anymore, but it's so interesting to see how she was coming up at the same time as Danny. And Danny, apparently, because she was on this reality show, when Chanel went to the other agents, like why aren't you guys booking her? And they were like, she has to be treated differently. She's a reality TV star. That was real of the time, but they weren't saying anything like that to Danny. Danny said when she first went for her first meeting there, she said they were cold. She said she felt like it was like very off-putting. Can you imagine? Because here's the thing. The environment for a reality show versus the real world of modeling, the real world that Tyra said she was trying to change, but it hadn't changed at that particular point. she's now being thrown into that, and she's just like, what is this? Okay. Schuler says Danny was in all of the catalogs. Well, that's the thing. She wanted to be on the cover of the magazines. Like, she's supposed to be the next top model, America's next top model. Ashley says, why are we blaming Tyra for everything? I think you're making a general statement in regards to the world, because I don't think we're blaming Tyra for anything. Maybe Ashley, you just joined us, because I've already given my disclaimer at the top, and I said there are so many people. And I also feel like people aren't giving Ken Mock, who was the reality TV executive producer behind this show. He was supposed to be the expert behind this show. Carla says Danny was and is, she's still beautiful. She looks like, if anything, she looks better now than she did then. Still beautiful. But she says she left the modeling industry. She left the modeling industry. I don't think she should. She could still model. Okay. Well, that's true. Look, Shanae says, mind you, fashion designers didn't even want their stuff in Devil Wears Prada. So you can imagine at the time where America's Next Top Model was happening. Adrienne Curry has slammed this documentary, but she's like, you know what? She's not even mad. She's not even mad at Tyra, because she probably saw Tyra in the documentary and was just like, Tyra just stood on business when it comes to, I said what I said, I did what I did. De La Shea says that's why Adrienne, winner of Cycle 1, who was voted vocal in real time about the lack of support, didn't do the doc. She knew they shenanigan. Yeah. Takara ended up, she didn't win America's Next Top Model, but she ended up having a name for herself. Remember, Takara ended up really creating a career for herself outside of America's Next Top Model. She was one of the few. Okay. All right. Moving on from there, I'm going to drop the call link before I move on. Guys, you just joined us, don't forget to like the video. It's an easy, free way of supporting the channel. But if you're a member of the channel, I have dropped the call-in link for our members. All right. That will be, hopefully that will work, because I didn't see it go through. Gigi says, Kempire, why do you think Eva did not do the documentary? I think because Eva has spoken out before in regards to her support of Tyra. She doesn't have a bad thing to say about Tyra. She said this previously on Watch What Happens Live. So I don't see her slamming Tyra or the document, being a part. She probably also, I'm sure she was asked, but I'm sure she probably did not know that Tyra would be a part of this documentary, and that's probably why she was like, I'm not going to do it. So, all right, something's going on with technology today, y'all, because it's not even letting me post on. Let me see if I can try this again. I'm trying to post for our members, but it's not even letting me post. Let's see. Let's try this again. Hold on, y'all. Let's try this. And as I'm doing that, guys, let's keep liking the video. I will drop the call link for the general audience. Let's get, how many people? We got quite a few people here for our Netflix reality check inside America's Next Top Model. I appreciate you all being here. All right, let me see if I can drop this call link. Let's see if it works now. Something's going on with YouTube. Oh, no, there it goes. Members, I just dropped the call link for you guys. So that might be part of the reason why Eva decided not to do the documentary. She probably had no idea that she would be a part of it, and she probably just be talking negative about the show. And she probably has nothing negative to say about the show. She actually went on to have her own kind of career outside of it. Oh, yeah, people saying that YouTube's down, but we're still here streaming. There's a lot of technology stuff going on today. It's okay. Let me say thank you. Cake Daddy, thank you for the super chat. He says, Tyra Banks is exactly who she tried to tell us Naomi Campbell is. She used the platform to torture girls. Karma is not done with her. Damn. Well, damn. Miss Sharon, thank you so much for the super chat. Sharon says, Danny owns a hat company. Good for her. I love that for her. Right? Candace says, we need a deep dive on the Tyra show. Well, they do talk a little bit about the Tyra show when she brought Shandy on there and basically showed Shandy's incident that Shandy did not want to watch. They showed it again. and right in front of her. Poor thing. Poor thing. All right. Let me go back to my notes. Where were we? All right. So, as I said to you before, more was said. If you missed it, Tiffany did go on social media and basically blast what Tyra said. I'm not going to reread it because it's a lot. There's a lot that she says here, but you can read it on your own. If you're listening to the podcast, you can. I already mentioned it at the top of the podcast. But this is what Tiffany had to say about this incident between her and Tyra. Apparently, a lot more was said. Even in the documentary, they say a lot more was said. Oh, you're right. Tushi Jack. Today, first of all, happy Lunar New Year. Happy Black History Month. There's a lunar eclipse. There was. And the retrograde is looming. We're in like the shadow period. You know, we believe that over here. Lord, all of that. That's why I had those issues today. Lord have mercy. All right. Moving on. All right. Let me move on from there. So after cycle 8, Jay Manuel is starting to feel like there are limitations on what he can do and say as to when he first started doing the show. So he emails Tyra, which we talked about at the top, and tells Tyra basically like he's done doing the show. He doesn't hear from her for 3 days. She responds and says, I am disappointed. Okay? Scorpio Moon Girl says the planets are lined up to Kempire. Lord have mercy. But we're here, right? We're here. And rest in peace to Reverend Jesse Jackson, passed away earlier today. I did do a video post about that. So if you missed it, Reverend Jesse Jackson passed away today. He was 84 years old. So back to this documentary recap. So apparently all communication between Jay Manuel and Tyra ended after he sent her that email. So their relationship was never the same after he sent that email to her. And when they picked back up, because they begged him to do one more cycle, he went from cycle 10 to cycle 18, where we find out that Tyra ends up firing her guys, Nigel, Miss J, Mr. J, and she says that she got a call from the higher ups. The show, although successful, it was already starting to see a dip in the viewers, and Tyra kept on saying, you know, there are, what did she say? What was the term that she said? Let me see. Oh my goodness. Where is it? I thought I wrote it down. She was like, there were no golden gooses or something like that. Something like that. And she took that, she says she took that as her, like she's no golden goose either, meaning that her job could be in jeopardy as well. No sacred cow, thank you. No sacred cow, thank you, Sonny. So they talk about that in episode 3 of this documentary. But before we get to that, Jay says that all communication stopped between them. They basically faked it for cameras, but she was faking it. He was willing to have the conversation and be friends with her, but she was completely cold to him, and so the cameras were on, and that's when... See, and look, okay, let me play devil's advocate. Okay, let me play Tyra's advocate. Okay, let me play Tyra's advocate for a second. She probably was hurt. We started this together. How could you leave me? And that was her reaction. But you continue that until the demise of your relationship. You don't eventually get over it and be like, you know what, I was hurt. I would love to have a conversation with you. I don't know. I'm like, what's going on? Scorpio Moon says Sag behavior. Is Tyra a Sagittarius? Wow. Okay. All right. BKE says, y'all want some Chinese food? I'm about to go get some fried rice and wings. He's taking orders, y'all. Look, he's taking orders. I don't think I want Chinese food tonight, though. I just had some stewed chicken with rice and veggies. There's no way I could do this live without eating a little something. All right. So the aftermath of America's Next Top Model, the way I label it in regards to episode 3, the photo shoots started to become even more bigger, and the themes were over-themed. And because of that, Kenya talked about bringing those photos to modeling agencies, and they're like, you have too much makeup on here. They're too over-themed, okay? Reality TV stars weren't taken seriously in the modeling industry. Tyra says that although reality TV stars were not taken seriously, she's saying that the girls that started the show, she feels like they opened the door for the models that we see today, like Isis as the first trans model, Winnie Harlow, and they show Winnie Harlow's big following. And yes, Winnie Harlow is a big model with multiple brands and things like that now, okay? So Danny talks about how she signed her deal. She won, America's Next Top Model. She moved to New York, but they weren't booking her. She found out from her friend Chanel Aman, who was also at the agency, also living in the model's apartment. And she found out from her, like, yeah, they don't want to book you because they're saying that you're different. You're a reality TV star. So they treat you differently. So that's why they're not booking you. So Tyra admitted, apparently, to Danny 15 years after this, that she knew that there were certain doors that Danny would not be able to get into because of Top Model, because of her being on a reality TV show. You know what I mean? So the other thing, too, that we have to keep in mind, too, there is a change in regards to who was over the show at UPN. So UPN had I think her name was Dawn. She was the head of UPN. And then there's this new guy that comes in. And Tyra says when this new guy comes in, he then says they have to trim the fat. There's no sacred cows. Okay? And this is where she has to fire her friends, the people that helped her at the beginning of the show, Nigel, Miss J, Mr. J. Okay? So this is where she's had to let them go. So she calls them up and lets them know that she's going to have to let them go. Okay? However, the news gets leaked. The news gets leaked that they've been fired. But Jay Manuel says that is so unusual for a show that it's a competition show. The information about what's happening during the show is so under wraps. So they're under the impression that someone, I don't think it was Tyra though. I believe an executive, maybe it's the new executive, maybe it was the PR behind the show that felt like, okay, we got to create story. We got to create drama around the show. What's the show going to look like without the people that helped start it? So this information about them getting fired leaks. They end up on HLN doing an interview, and they're asked about this, like, oh, what happened? Why were you guys let go? What was it like working for Tyra? But because of legal reasons, they really couldn't say too much. Okay? The V-Life says the previous UPN owner or president lacked emotion as well. And I think that's important to note. It's important to note that, yes, Tyra she was the face of the show. She gets a lot of the blame. However, a lot of those decisions were over her head. Because again, as she said, she wasn't a sacred cow. Because what we find out, at some particular point, they decide that Tyra Banks should no longer host the show. And that's when they bring in Rita Ora. Here's the thing, and I've said this before, we need to normalize ending things when they're at the top. But I think what happens is that people become greedy. They become entranced in the attention, in the fame, in the money, in the opportunities. And I get it. But sometimes you need to just be like, you know what? We did that. We don't need to do another season. Let's end it on top. And they didn't. And you saw the change to the point where I told you, I checked out of that show. I don't even remember. I checked out, I think when they started getting like, okay, we're going to do the college season. We're going to do all the models are 5'7" and under. And they started doing all these quirky themes and they were just trying to revamp the show. But here's the thing. Although I believe that's what you should do when you've hit a point, when you've hit your pinnacle, when you start to plateau, the powers that be that really own the show, let's be honest, Tyra doesn't own the show. I don't know if she owns it now, but the powers that be at the time, UPN, they own this show. They're going to be like, well, no, we're going to continue. with or without you. And we're going to bring Rita Ora in. But that wasn't it. They decided that Tyra was going to go. So, yeah, she's still the executive producer, but she will no longer host the show. Foxy says, I stopped watching the show then. Ms. Parker says, I was done when the Jays and Nigel were gone. I think that's when I was done with the show, because I don't remember who took their place. I don't remember. Thank you so much, Lovin. Lovin says, YouTube is down, but you're still live. By the grace of God, thank you for everyone that's still here watching. We're still rocking. Something's going on. There was an eclipse today. I know for the people that don't believe in that stuff, but you see all the stuff that ends up happening? Jean says, I checked out in the Twiggy days. I think so too. I really do not remember the last season that I watched. And even when they talked about bringing it back and they were like, Rita Ora is going to be the host, I said, I don't care about that. But I said, when I heard the announcement that there was going to be a Cycle 25, I said, I'm open to it. But I'm only open to a Cycle 25 if we're bringing everyone back. We're bringing back the Jays. We're bringing back Nigel Barker. But you're not. So I'm good, Tyra. And I think you should be good too. Especially because I don't feel like this documentary did you any justice. BKA says, not too much on Twiggy. I'm not saying anything about Twiggy. I'm just saying I checked out. All right. Infinite Vibe says, I was done after 1 or 2 seasons of Men and Women. I definitely did not watch those seasons. Hey, Vidal. Vidal says, I remember that season when they came to Jamaica. I went to the fashion show they had at the Great House in Rose Hall. Ooh. Wow. Kawale, thank you so much for the super chat. Kawale says, Adrian said the show is analyzed unfairly now. I have to say, Adrian, who was on season 1, who won cycle 1, I have to say, like, I think she keeps it real when it comes to the time that it was filmed and today. Shanae, thank you so much for the super chat. Shanae says, why would he send such a close friend an email? I thought the same thing. And again, in the documentary, she's referring to Jay Manuel. Jay, she refuses to talk about Jay. She's like, I should call Jay. In the last how many years, when's the last time you talked to Jay? You didn't think you should have called Jay before this documentary? So something happened there. I don't know what it was, but something happened between them. And I don't know what it could be. Ari, thank you so much for Super Chat. Ari says, Eva didn't show because the models wasn't paid in the doc. Oh, she's like, I need to get paid for it? Okay. Well, I don't blame her then. Look, she's like, time is money. All right. All right. Moving on. What else did I want to talk about in regards to this? All right. Let me see who's backstage. I didn't even see. Who's backstage? Oh, we got a lot of people backstage. Live chat. Let's get to 900 likes. Once we get to 900 likes, I will drop the call link for the general audience. I am going to give you a time limit for those that want to weigh in and talk about Netflix's documentary Reality Check Inside America's Next Top Model. But if you're part of the replay crew, just fast forward through the little technical difficulties. It is what it is. You can also listen to our live recaps and special episodes on the Kempire podcast. All right, more information on everything Kempire, including my sweatshirt that you're watching. You're twerking on a fence. It's found at thehouseofkempire.com. That's HAUS of Kempire.com. And make sure you guys are following us on Facebook, Kempire on Facebook and Kempire Daily on Facebook. Shout out to those of you that are watching on Facebook right now. Yeah, you're right. Ms. Parker says, Adrian complained about the show after Top Model. I remember her trash talking when she was on the show with her now ex-husband, Chris Knight. Yep. Didn't she also, she had a reality show after that, right? Hey, Corinne, shout out to everyone watching on X. Pitch Narrative says, why was Eva Pickford not mentioned at all? You see her. There are definitely clips of Eva, the diva, in the documentary. Corinne says, I think YouTube is down right now. I don't know, but it seems like everyone's still here, though. Right, YouTube? Or maybe not. Ooh, look, maybe not. All right, but for those that may have missed it, you can watch the replay. Okay. All right. No, it seems to be working for me. Maybe it was down, but now it's working. All right. Let me get to the last moments of my notes, okay? Because I did not expect to tear up. There were a couple of moments where I got a little emotional watching this documentary. All right. And then at the end, I get even more emotional. Even the second time watching it, Miss J, the runway extraordinaire, reveals that he had a stroke, okay? And back in 2022. And all of the other judges came to see him. Nigel, Jay Manuel, they came to see him. He said that he's heard from Tyra, but he hasn't seen Tyra since, okay? So then there was that. Then towards the end of the documentary, then they start talking about some of what everyone's been up to. They give you an update on some of the past guests. Tyra then announces there's going to be a cycle 25. And I was like, and there it is. Okay. And there it is. All right. I was wondering, Yaya is probably one of the most famous to come out of America's Next Top Model. Okay. But yeah. So was there anything else that I wanted to talk about in regards to this? Yeah, because Top Model, you saw the rise and the decline. That's what the documentary shows you. It shows you some of the problematic things that happened behind the scenes with America's Next Top Model. It makes me wonder what Cycle 25 would look like, how they're approaching it differently, who's involved, who would be the judges. Did you guys see Kimora Lee Simmons in the... from the old footage? I forgot that she was on it because her and Tyra were friends. I don't know if I'm assuming they're still friends. But yeah. Wait, where's the... Oh, so we talked about the firing and things like that. Yeah, I mean, we could talk more about it from the callers, but that's all I have in regards to what I wanted to say about the documentary. It's a 3-hour documentary. It's 3 episodes. If you haven't watched it, you can watch it. Yes, Tyra's now living in Australia. For those that didn't know, she's launched her hot ice cream. So yeah. Iya says, nope, no 25. I don't think she learned anything. I didn't feel like after watching it that I'm like, oh, Tyra has learned something. No, I kind of look now at Tyra. I came into the documentary wanting to give Tyra grace, and I came out of the documentary like, she doesn't deserve it. No. Not that she doesn't deserve it, because I do feel like there are other people, Ken Mock, the executives, the Les Moonves, there are other people that need to be held just as accountable. You know what I mean? You're right. Yes, Storm. Hey, Storm. Storm says Kimora was on season 1 judge, and the finale runway was a baby fat show. Almost completely forgot about that. Kendra says Yaya was on Chicago Med. I watched her every Wednesday. She's been on a few things. She's definitely been on a few things. Did she play Whitney Houston too in a Lifetime movie? Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's get to our callers. Keep in mind, the opinions of the callers do not represent the opinions of myself, the Kempire LLC, or our sponsors. Everything that they say is alleged and of their own opinion, and they agree to abide by the timer, okay? Please respect the timer. Did I drop the call link for the general audience? I don't think I did. Let me do that now. General audience, I just dropped the call link for you guys, okay? All right, well, let's bring up El My Bell. El My Bell, what did you want to share?
I called yesterday. Hi, Kempire chat mods. So I had to mark off things because you were hitting all the things I want to talk about. But Adrienne, she was on The Surreal Life. That was the other show that she did.
Yes, thank you. I couldn't remember. Adrienne, you're talking Adrienne Curry.
Yes. And so I agree with everything you've pretty much said. And I just wanted to add, I will at least say we have some names coming out of America's Next Top Model. Because I will tell you, I have watched The Voice for years, and I still can't name anybody who's gone on to do anything really big or great.
But American Idol, you can.
Right. So at least she has that going for the show. Mm-hmm. And then I would say, yeah, they could probably do a documentary on her talk show because there was a lot of crazy things. Remember when she had Janet Jackson on there and she said, I want to recreate the If video, and she made Janet get down and play the guy and she was pushing her head around. It was crazy. But those were the days of that show. It was really strange what she was doing. So yeah, and I just want to say she had her ice cream shop here in the DMV, the DC area.
It closed.
It was called Smiles and Dream, and she's being sued for that because they left out of the 10-year lease.
Yes. I saw that. Thanks, Al, for calling in.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. All right. Let's bring up Squirtle. Squirtle, thank you so much for all the super chats.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, good. Thank you. You had stew chicken. I had curry chicken today. So,
Sorry.
yeah, Caribbean brothers over here. So for me, I think I love Top Models. That was one of my favorite shows back in the day. But as much criticism we give the show, I will say that one thing I did get out of the show is it allowed us to have conversations about these sensitive topics, even back then, about weight, about gender, about sexuality, about skincare, about skin color, all those kind of things. And you have to give Tyra some kind of credit for that in the show a little bit, because I don't think we would be having these conversations about height and stuff. So that's one thing I do give her an ounce of credit for.
Yeah.
Personally, I feel like Tyra did this. If you ever noticed that her career is kind of in a decline, she's been just kind of running around doing different things. She was on Dancing with the Stars. That didn't work out. She did the ice cream. It's hot. It's cold. It's all over the place. She's doing everything. I think she's trying to capitalize this as a way to kind of get a comeback.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't. I mean, I'll watch it because I'm a degenerate like that, but still, yeah. Well, have a good night.
Thanks, Squirtle. Take care. Not a degenerate. All right. Yeah, guys, we heard that YouTube was down, but apparently it's not down for everyone. But if you're watching the replay and it went down in the middle, hey, sorry. I have no control. And y'all thought it was just me. I don't know. It's just the eclipse. The eclipse. But happy Lunar New Year. Okay. Demi's backstage. We're going to bring Demi up next. Demi, what did you want to share?
Hey, good evening.
Hey.
This was our show in high school.
Mm-hmm.
We watched this show, I think, I don't know, Thursdays, Friday nights, I can't remember what night it came on.
Yeah.
But this was our show. And one thing I want to say about this is we had no other glimpse of what modeling was. So whatever Tyra and then the Jays and all them showed on the show was Bible. Because we had no other way of knowing what was going on that wasn't our world. And it's also inspired a lot of us to show more creativity within ourselves. So me and my friends were taking like full-on editorial photo shoots. Like, get me like this. Like, I'll hang this way and I'll do this. But it's interesting because it's very similar to the style of like making the band, the way they definitely mentioned that on the show.
Kevin
But that was
Mock.
interesting. Showing like this is what it's going to take to do this. But like for me now as an adult, of course I see this show as extremely problematic. Of course I do. But then we didn't really, we didn't want to be left behind also. Like this was like showing us what it was and we wanted to be a part of it. And we knew what Tyra Banks was. She was huge.
Yeah. It's a supermodel.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Demi. All right. Bring up Miss Sharon. Miss Sharon, what's going on?
Hey, Kempire, how you doing?
Oh, well, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Yeah, I was one of those that watched the America's Next Top Model from the beginning, and I can remember when she hollered at Tiffany. I was, you know how you watch the TV, but then you do something else, and you're busy doing that. And when she started screaming, it scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on, and I can remember that specifically. And I was wondering if they were going to talk about the other girls, but I guess it was based on what Tyra was doing at the time of Next Top Models, because, some of the girls that, was on the show, I know one girl ended up in prison. The one girl, that she did that stage where her friend had died of an overdose.
Yeah.
Well, that one, she ended up dying from cancer.
Ooh.
And I think it was like when she was like 34 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Because I kind of keep up with them to find out if they made it in modeling or anything. And you don't hear anything about them. And I remember when Winnie was on there, because I think I stopped watching it after she was on there. She got on that man for calling her Panda.
Yeah.
She did not like that. I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay, Kempire, talk to you later.
Thanks for sharing. All right. Let's bring up Wendy next. Wendy, what's going on? Wendy, you're muted.
Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Okay. Hey. Okay. That was JL she was talking about that had passed from the cancer.
Everyone's
But
in chat. Yeah, JL.
Okay, so what? Okay, the documentary was good. Okay, I did enjoy it. You know, it was very informative. But what I would have loved to seen, because it was like negative informative for me,
Mm.
I would have loved to seen, you know, the other girls like Celicia and Winnie, just to talk about what they did afterwards, because you heard Danny's side of it, but you haven't heard the ones that are pretty successful, because there are some successful people that came out of Top Model, and I would have loved to see or hear how their experience was after that.
Mm.
But other than that, you know, karma is something, and I'm not gonna watch cycle 25. I watched the whole cycles from cycle 1 through 24. So
Wow.
you didn't miss much after they ditched Tyra. Believe me, you did not miss much at all.
I figured.
But other than that, that's it. And you have a good one.
You too, Wendy. Thanks. All right, let me. All right, Sarah's backstage. We're gonna bring Sarah up next. Sarah, what's going on?
Hey, Kempire.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. I just wanted to say something quickly. Growing up from this show, and I'm like an older Gen Z, I really enjoyed Tyra's charismatic character in her show. I am indifferent. I do believe strongly that it's not all on Tyra. I believe that it is a corporation, and that there is, and just because someone's the face of something doesn't mean they have like this legal say to say everything or to have charge of what they're doing. What I will say is that during that essay scene, I think that they handled it incorrectly. I understand that because of legality reasons, they can't really go into it. And I do believe Tyra that, and I'm trying to be biased, I do believe that she has some type of fault to it, but I would say that for Tyra, I do believe when she did say that it was, she doesn't do like have much communication with production. I think there is some type of miscommunication with that. But going back to that essay scene, I believe that if it was really production that was really in charge of it, I just think that they could have said like a professional statement, taken accountability, and then just left it there, because there's so many things that went in through that like episode and so on. So
Yeah. Thanks so much, Sarah, for calling in.
Thank you.
One of the things I wanted to mention in regards to the documentary and Wendy saying that she would like to see a little bit more, she would have liked to see more positives, especially after watching and being unofficially a part of the Mary Cosby documentary. And we saw some of the things that they did in that Mary Cosby documentary. You see whatever angle, and especially when you're talking about reality television and them painting whatever picture they want to paint, this documentary wanted to paint a certain picture. So I am sure there was some positives, but that's where we as an audience that's learning more and more about what's happening behind the scenes and what we're watching, and being a little bit more like, well, is that really what happened? And just being a little bit more in tune and being more intuitive to what we're watching. That, yeah, there are some positives. Tyra holds some blame. She's not the only one, hence why we pointed out some of the people that we needed to name. Ken Mog, the Les Moonves of it all, the Dawn that was in the documentary that was the head of UPN, and then the new guy that took over after she left. All right. De La Che's backstage. De La Che, what did you want to share? De La Che.
Oh, hey, boo.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I wanted to say that I guess like for me, I watched it last night, and it was less of a testament of her remorse and more of a testament of her grief. Like the fact that it culminated in her testifying of like, oh, but wait till cycle 25, because there's no reason that they should have been able to start and finish this in 3 episodes. Like this was easily a 10-part series, right? And I just feel like she noticed she noticed the abundance of criticism that she was receiving, and just said, okay, I'm going to do what I have to do to shut it down, take some kind of accountability, but just off of the surface. Also, in regards to your indifference or your commentary about Kenya, I will say I immediately flashed back to the controversy of her with that young kid. And I thought the same thing. I'm like, it is a little weird. And a little bit of tea on that is I almost signed up for her pose class. And so she had reached out to me via IG. I think I might have commented, and then she DM'd me. In her DMing me, obviously I was excited, right? Because I'm like, okay, period. Like, I have body yaddy yaddy. I'm from around the way. So I thought that was cool that she was the one to initiate that. In my excitement, because I sent the voice note, as you can tell, I'm a professional yapper. In my excitement, she's like, well, I would just advise you to be professional. Like, I understand you're excited, but in the industry, XYZ. And then for it to turn around months later that she couldn't adopt to her same philosophy of being professional with a young person in the street, I just thought that was kicks and giggles. Giggles and kicks for days. But anyway, have a good night, y'all.
Thanks, Taylor Shay. Ooh, not the tea. Not the tea. All right, let me bring up Melissa. Melissa, are you there?
Oh my gosh, Kempire, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is my first time calling in.
Thank you for calling in.
I'm kind of like, you don't understand how much I had such a long day, and I was like, I got to turn to Kempire before I go bananas, so thank you for having this, Kempire.
Oh, thank you.
But I'm kind of like you. I originally thought that, you know what, it's a show about modeling. The whole thing with Danny and the Gap, at first I was like, it is what it is. It's the modeling industry. It's not America's next best friend. It's America's next top model, and that's what the industry is, and that's what Tyra is giving a show about. But then I watch it, and I see the thing with Shandy, and I'm like, that is just nasty work. That is just devil's work. Between the whole thing with Kenya, and I forgot about that because I grew up watching that, about the guy touching Kenya, pretty much assaulting her, and she stands up for herself and she is shut down. I am sorry. And the whole thing with Ebony and microaggressions from other people is never okay. But when it comes from your own, it just cuts deeper. And that's when I was like, you know what, Tyra, I cannot advocate for this. So Cycle 25, no gracias. I'm still on my Super Bowl, Benito Bowl. No gracias, Tyra, for Cycle 25. And I just want to say thank you, Kempire, and I can't wait to see you in New York.
Yay! Thanks, Melissa. See you on March 13th. All right. Yes, that perfect segue to let you guys remind you again, go get your tickets. We're not sold out yet. In-person tickets are available for our live show here in New York City. We might have to talk about Tyra. We'll stay tuned. March 13th at the Green Room 42. But if you can't make it, there is a live stream option. Ticket information will be available in the description. Let me move on to Elise. Elise, what did you want to share?
Hey, Kempire.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. So I just wanted to say, first of all, your winter glow is popping. I might have to get me some of that butter skin.
Yes.
I mean,
go to my TikTok shop. That's the only way you can get it now.
Ooh, okay. So I feel like Tyra wanted to change the face of the modeling industry, mainly for her benefit, but that's just me. And I said, it's one thing to be in the moment, and you don't see how you're acting then, but to look back 20 something years later and you just have this lack of empathy, compassion, or remorse, I can't give you grace there. I can give you grace for back then, but I just can't relate to somebody for that amount of time. I don't know, maybe I'm just different. And I'm like, she just sat up there looking real smug. And I feel like with the Tiffany situation, Tyra was trying to provoke her to make her story seem like, oh, this girl was here last season fighting and she's not grown and she's still this little ghetto girl from the hood fighting and popping off. I think Tyra really wanted to bring that out of her, but Tiffany sat there and paid it dust.
Wow.
She really didn't react. But so, yeah. And I just think that she wanted to control the narrative, even with that Shandy sit down with the documentary, everything. But anyways, that's all for tonight. I'll pass on Cycle 25.
Thanks, Elise. All right. Yes, guys, if you are in the live chat, let me know. Is it a yes or a no to Cycle 25 of America's Next Top Model? Let me know in the chat. And if you're part of the replay crew, let me know your thoughts on that as well. Let me bring up Kyle next. Kyle, what's going on?
Hey, Kempire.
Hey.
I say this as a former fashion model from New York. The show was very unrealistic from my perspective, but it's a reality show, so they have to do a lot of dramatics and a lot of stuff like that. And I feel two ways about it. I feel like I think Tyra's a little chemically unbalanced. Like at times she goes in and she would focus too much on their personalities versus their pictures. And then another part of it is let's be realistic. A lot of these girls wouldn't have a platform if it wasn't for the show, because there's so much competition in New York and in Paris and London. And I would love to see girls like Fatima, Anchal, and a few other girls, because modeling, I met some of these girls, like Eugenia too. So I would like to see the girls that, like another caller said, the successful ones. But like I said, it's a reality show. Some of them couldn't make it. Some of them were too short. A lot of different things. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you so much, Kyle, for calling in. The other, Kyle just reminded me one part of the documentary that I forgot to talk about. So shout out to those of you that listen to the entire episode and you don't just chime out when the call is calling, because then the callers remind me of things that I wanted to talk about from the documentary. So Jay Manuel reveals, because this is where you think that, that they're trying to find the winner and that the photos are the photos. Well, no, Jay was talking about how some of the photos, like there were certain people they wanted to keep longer. So he was like, find the right photo. It has to be like the best photo. Or the other side of that, where they're bringing up their worst photo and there were plenty of good photos that they could have used. I don't know why I was so shocked by that, because after talking about all kinds of different reality TV shows and competition shows, that's not really shocking to me, but wow. Because I remember watching this show before doing what we do now and be thinking like, damn, girl, us at home sitting like judges, like that was a terrible photo. Like she didn't even do it. But apparently sometimes they would pick their worst photo because maybe that was their week to go. I was like, wow, damn, cold-blooded. All right, let's bring up Joy next. Joy, what's going on?
Hey, Kempire.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. It's so perfect that you said what you just said, because that part of the documentary, I was gagged. Like, I don't know why. I just really, really thought they were doing it like you would expect. Like, They actually picked the good pictures, but they basically were manipulating the competition so who they wanted could move forward or leave. And that was wild. So I'm so glad that you're here tonight. Like when I saw it was upcoming, I had my notification on, like I was ready. The whole documentary from the beginning, like I was so excited to see it. And I just expected to get my life. And, I'm one of those people that always has, high hopes for people. I just assumed that Tyra would use this opportunity to, show some accountability, show some remorse, show something. And I didn't see it. And then when she plugged the Cycle 25, I was like, child, listen. I hope that was one of those kind of jokes, like, oh, let me just throw it out there to see what everyone says. I hope she's not really planning to do that, because that would be. But that's it.
Thank you, Joy. Take care. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so, because usually, and this is very much like we were talking about when we talk about Real Housewives and Stacey talking about her Candace's line, why she didn't talk about it last season, and she's talking about it now. I don't think Tyra, if something really wasn't in the works, would talk about a Cycle 25 if it wasn't really like signed, sealed, and delivered. So yeah, y'all gonna get a Cycle 25. Don't mean we're gonna watch it. Hey, Angel, what's going on?
Hey, Kempire.
Hey.
So I'm not going to touch on anything specifically because it was all kind of bad in retrospect as an adult. Seeing that, okay, we can say we're not going to blame Tyra too much. She was just the face. And yes, there were other people involved. So yes, we should be blaming executives, and we should be blaming casting, and we should be blaming the psychologists who preyed upon these girls who were young enough, whose frontal cortexes weren't even developed yet, who just wanted to find their way out of poverty. So yes, but yes, a lot of them did get platforms and we wouldn't know who they are. So there are positives with the negatives. But with that said, when I heard Tyra say season or Cycle 25, I lost my matcha, because she is delusional. Like, play Drew Delulu. Tyra, you're toxic. You created a toxic work environment. Barely any of the girls had anything good to say about you. And now I see why you go through jobs so quickly, and they're not jobs that you create for yourself. So no wonder she didn't make it on Dancing with the Stars, besides the fact that nobody's watching it anymore. And of course, she didn't make it on American Got Talent, because Tyra is the problem. So look in the mirror and change some things before you think about making another cycle.
Thanks, Angel. I have to say, now I'm starting to believe the rumors about her being tough behind the scenes of those shows that she was a part of. So now I'm starting to think like, oh, maybe those things were true. All right, Vidal's backstage. We're going to bring Vidal up next. Vidal, what's going on?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. I'm driving, that's why. But so she did cycle 3 and cycle 19 in Jamaica. On 2012, she did it in Jamaica, and my best friend, who's a fashion designer, was a seamstress on the show. And she said, like, Tyra was really, really nice. She came around. She, like, everyone from Jamaica that helped with the show production and stuff, she came around. She took pictures with them, and she was very sweet. I remember being at the fashion show, and of course, it's kind of like a tense environment and stuff, but everything was just off. But I can't say much for her personality because I didn't get a chance to meet her, unfortunately. But I heard she was very nice.
Okay.
And for me, as a former model, I felt that the show was more so gimmicky rather than a realistic depiction of what you're going through. And I feel like with this show, I thought she would be more of taking accountability, but it was more of her trying to justify something, and it just cements how I initially feel about her, that she's just a mean girl. And I know she's not the only person, like other people play a part in it, but it didn't change from my perception of her at all.
And she has her part.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Vidal, for calling in.
No problem. Bye. Peace.
Bye. Let me see. Thank you, guys. We're almost at 1,000 likes. So be sure to like the video. It's an easy, free way of supporting not just my channel, but other channels as well. Miss V, thank you so much for the super chat. Miss V says, on a lighter note, I wish they told us who took Bree's granola bar? You right. Oh my gosh. I was for a second, I was like, what? Joyce, thank you so much for the super chat. Joyce says, I never cared for Tyra Banks before or after Next Top Model, but I love your take, Kempire. See you on the 13th. Joyce, I'll see you on the 13th. Thank you so much for the super chat and for being a member as well. Well, look, I try to be fair because I want to hear other people's side. Elder Millennial says, documentaries are not unbiased, which I literally just said not too long ago. Y'all not going to have me hate Tyra during Black History Month. The show was awful, but but it was bigger than Tyra. I hate that she's bearing the brunt of the backlash. Elder Millennial, I hope you've been here for the entire recap because we have been saying both of that. Both things can be true at the same time. But yeah, justice for the granola bars. Now I want a granola bar. I think it's just time for me to eat again. Just saying. All right, let me bring up, because we're going to take these last couple of callers. Jasmine's backstage. We're going to bring Jasmine up next. Jasmine, what's going on?
Hey, Kempire.
Hey.
Hope you're well.
Yes.
I just wanted to say, while watching the documentary, I co-signed everything you said and a lot of the callers said. First of all, I don't think I realized what I was watching when with Shandy, with a lot of the things that were going on, because I was like their age.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff that was happening, I know you were saying we didn't have the language for it and all that stuff, but also I know for me, I was their age. So I didn't know really what I was looking at. Looking at it now, some of these things, I'm like, wow.
And I'm sure people now looking back will probably look back at something that they went through in college and they're like, oh my God, that was SA.
Exactly. And because it was so normalized and just, kind of brushed under the rug, we didn't think about it. But I also wanted to say, in terms of just the perception of the show and everything, and how a lot of this got resurfaced during 2020 with TikTok and everything, I found it funny because I was while I was watching it, I saw a TikToker on the show, and she was blasting them for, going on body shaming. And I'm like, I know that's not the same girl who was just blasting and body shaming a reality TV contestant last summer on the show. So I just find the hypocrisy of some of these people very, very rich. And I would just say, check how you show up online and how you talk about people, because are you dragging people and downing people, both men and women, no matter what their body looks like, whatever it is, how they talk, whatever? Are you dragging them like Janice Dickerson?
Are you dragging them like Tyra? Are you dragging them like these judges? Because I feel like personally, a lot of these reality shows nowadays, it's not the judges doing the harm. It's the audiences.
Jasmine.
And just seeing her reminded me of that, and that's all I wanted to say. Have a good night.
I'm glad you did. Thank you so much, Jasmine. Yeah, some of the and this is not at any particular person that they featured, but the flashing of people that aren't millennials that were watching Tyra in real time on this show, people watching it in their 2025, 2026 perspectives. I was sort of like, I get what you're saying watching it now, but at the same time, I was like, but we've talked about that. But anyway, let's bring up Chrissy. Chrissy, what's going on?
Hey, Kempire, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you. So, two things can be true at one time. You know, Tyra is an icon, but she's also a narcissist. Okay. And I'm not surprised that she no longer has a good relationship with the other cast members. I love Tyra. But American a Top Model was a problematic show. I didn't realize it was problematic when there was I don't remember which model it was, but they were, I think, in Italy, and they were modeling with male models, and one model said that he did not like Black people. And I don't know if they talked about it in the documentary.
No, they didn't.
Yes, and they were brushing it off, and she was so uncomfortable modeling with that guy after he told that to her. So her photo shoot was terrible.
Yeah, but I remember now. It's coming back.
Yeah, and Tyra was just brushing her like, girl, you should have just made him like a Black woman, Black woman. And I'm like, what? And I was in elementary school and I knew like that was some BS, okay? And also the Rita Ora thing was so random. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, was this a scheme that Rock Nation set up to get Rita? She was not even a model.
I think she left Rock Nation at that particular point, but they already launched her career at that particular point.
And she was no longer signed by Jay-Z anymore?
I don't think so. Not at that point.
That was just so random. But that's all I had to say.
And she's not even a model. Bye. Thanks, Chrissy. All right, let's bring up Myra next. Hey, Myra.
Hi, Kempire.
How are
This is
you?
my first time calling in.
Thank you so much. We got a lot of new people calling in.
So I only have a little bit to say is that, same with the last caller, we realized that the show was problematic. I actually had a casting email, and my Caribbean dad thought it was a scam, so he's talking about kind of intent. I was 16. I was crying. So I guess it's the universe telling me I was being protected. But I would have to say the documentary show a little bit of stuff, but you guys listen to the podcast, a lot of stuff was actually more in detail, like how they got paid $12 an hour or $12 a day. And I'm like, how they were surviving. So once you listen to the podcast, it made people realize, okay, yeah, everybody that was involved had a part in that.
Yeah. And while Tyra and Ken Mock were making millions of dollars off the show.
Exactly. Yes. Or if they left the show, they were going to have to owe $5 million. They left the show prematurely. And the girl was like, how am I going to pay that if I'm not even making money?
Lord have mercy. All
so
right.
that's one thing I had to say.
Thanks, Myra, for calling in. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Bye. All right. Last but definitely not least, we're going to bring up Shanae. Shanae, what's going on?
Hey.
Hey.
Oh my God. I'm like so taken off guard. So this is my first time calling in. Definitely won't be my last.
Oh, all right. I love that.
But what I will say is, and I'm not even going to get into the shandy of it because I think that particular conversation requires a lot of nuance that I'm going to be honest, I don't feel like I have the range for, so I won't even do it. But as far as the Miss J of it all, it is baffling to me that so many people feel like you are the main character in someone else's story, even after y'all have had a falling out. And the thing is, you are not the main character in anyone else's story but your own. If we have a falling out, okay, and we don't have a relationship like that anymore, you got to be out of your mind if you think that I'm going to hop on a plane to visit you in the hospital. I don't care what didn't happen to you. Now, I'm going to lift your name up in the name of the Lord. I'm going to go to my prayer closet and intercede for you all day. But I'm not necessarily going to drop everything I'm doing and go visit you in the hospital when at the time that you got sick, we were not at the place that we were when the show, was in its heyday and when everything was good.
Yeah.
I do wish that Tyra would have gave us a little bit more tea on how she felt about the other Jay. Because that definitely gives me that there was a whole nother fallout behind that fallout that we didn't really get to know about. Because sending me an email when we supposed to be good Judies is wild. So that's all I have to say. I'm still Team Tyra. Love her down. She looked amazing. And I'm here for cycle 25.
Okay.
As long as they bring everybody back, including Tyra. Tyra looked good.
Oh, so you want them to bring back all the Jays and Nigel?
What? Bring them back. Yeah, bring back all the Jays. Bring back Nigel. If I can watch Basketball Wives for as long as I did, I'm not gonna get up here and bash America's Next Top Model, honey. Like some of the same people bashing Tyra in this show are the same people that made Blue and Krishan famous. So yeah.
Oh God. Oh.
But thank you.
Thanks, Shanae, for calling in. Bye. Wow. All right. Well, I mean, look, everyone has their right to their own perspective. But remember, Miss J knew Tyra, taught Tyra how to walk on a runway at 16 years old. I don't know if they had any major beef, but their relationship was strained. But at the same time, Lord, look, Lord. All right, fine. All right, thank you guys so much for over 1,000 likes. Yes, there were some technical difficulties. YouTube was down, but we made it through. We talked about Netflix's reality check inside America's Next Top Model. I feel like this whole conversation is nuanced because we will never really know the truth because none of us were there. We're watching a documentary that is edited, that is skewed for a particular narrative that they would like to tell. So then there's that part of it. But I will say, I don't 100% blame just Tyra, but I do, after coming into the documentary, being like, y'all just mad at this black woman. Y'all not y'all not right. And then at the end of it, I was like, well, maybe. Look, maybe. But fine. Okay? All right. Thank you to everyone that called in. Thank you to everyone that were a part of the conversation during our live. Shout out to our Kingsguard. Shout out to our channel members. Become a member today at teamkempire.com/join. Shout out to our subscribers. Those of you that became new subscribers. Shout out to our replay crew. Let us know your thoughts and opinions on this documentary, what you thought about what we had to say. And don't forget the Kempire After Dark live show. It's coming back to New York City. One night only. 2026, the only show that we have planned. So get your tickets today. In-person tickets are available. Meet and greet tickets are available. And a live stream ticket's available. So if you can't come to New York City, but you should try. If you can't come to New York City, get your tickets for the live stream. And you'll be able to keep that for 1 week after. Because maybe you can't make it that night. All right. Thank you to everyone for being in here. I appreciate you. I hope you guys will enjoy this on the Kempire podcast as well, where we put our live recaps, but also special exclusive episodes and additional thoughts. So if I have any additional thoughts about this documentary, they'll be on the podcast. So be sure to check that out. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye, y'all. Thanks for tuning in to Kempire here on the Kempire Radio Network. Don't forget to give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And for more information on the podcast, head on over to kempireradio.com.